In the heart of the wild frontier, a new boomtown sprang to life, bursting with energy and ambition. As the sun rose over the horizon, its golden rays illuminated dusty streets bustling with miners, traders, and dreamers. The sound of laughter and conversation filled the air, blending with the clang of metal as newcomers built their homes and businesses. Each day brought a fresh wave of arrivals, lured by tales of gold and opportunity. The townsfolk set up shop in hastily constructed wooden buildings, their signs swinging in the wind: general store, saloon, and blacksmith. Children dashed through the streets, their joyous shouts echoing as they played among crates and barrels. Everywhere one looked, there was a sense of purpose. Everyone was working hard to carve out their place in this vibrant community. As night approached, the saloon became alive with music and dancing. Inside, laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses filled with whiskey, the very lifeblood of this fledgling town. Friends toasted to new beginnings while sharing stories of their daring adventures. Hope swirled like a warm breeze around them. Dreams were being spun into reality under the flickering lanterns. Yet beneath this joyful surface lay an undercurrent of tension. With fortune came fierce competition. Not everyone in town sought friendship. Some eyed their neighbors warily, dreams sometimes clashing like swords. As shadows lengthened and excitement mounted, it became clear that this booming haven was teetering on the edge, a place where fortunes could be won or lost by dawn's light. The thrill of promise hung thick in the air, ready to ignite into something far more dangerous than anyone could foresee. At the heart of the bustling boomtown stood the tavern, a wooden structure with a wide, welcoming porch and a sign that swung gently in the breeze. The rustic atmosphere inside was alive with the warm glow of lanterns and the comforting scent of wood smoke mixed with ripe whiskey. This was the place where townsfolk gathered to drink, relax, and share their stories after long days of labor. The tavern buzzed with energy every evening as miners clinked glasses filled with amber liquid, recounting tales of their latest discoveries in the nearby hills. Laughter erupted like fireworks as friends exchanged jokes, and old rivalries were momentarily forgotten. The barkeep, a cheerful woman named Clara, moved deftly behind the counter, filling orders with a smile as she poured whiskey from dusty bottles lined up on the shelves. In one corner, a group of men huddled over a game of cards, their faces tense with concentration and competitive spirit. Nearby, a couple danced to lively music played by an old fiddler, their movements fluid and joyous amidst the swirling laughter. The tavern was more than just a place to drink. It was the lifeblood of the community, where friendships formed and bonds strengthened. Yet as night deepened, whispers of discontent sometimes floated through the air. Skeptical eyes watched newcomers closely, unsure if they were rivals or allies. Still, the tavern remained a refuge, a constant reminder that amid dreams and danger, connection was essential for survival in this rapidly changing world. It was here that hopes were shared and plans hatched, setting the stage for what lay ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the tavern hummed with anticipation, and the true magic behind its vibrant atmosphere began to flow: whiskey. Made from local grains and pure spring water, the whiskey was crafted in a makeshift distillery hidden behind the tavern. The process was a closely guarded secret, passed down among trusted townsfolk who understood that this fiery spirit was more than just a drink. It was a pathway to connection and, at times, conflict. Clara, the barkeep, held her own special recipe that gave her whiskey its unmistakable kick. She would carefully blend the ingredients, allowing them to ferment for days before distilling them into clear liquid gold. Once bottled and ready, it transformed the ordinary evenings in the tavern into unforgettable experiences. As townsfolk sipped their drinks, warmth spread through them like fire on a cold night. However, whiskey's effects could be double-edged. While it fueled laughter and camaraderie among friends as they raised their glasses in spirited toasts, it also had a way of igniting tempers. Disputes that once seemed trivial were magnified under its influence, leading to heated arguments or even skirmishes among rival miners. One fateful night, after several rounds of Clara's finest whiskey, tensions erupted when an old rivalry resurfaced between two groups at the bar. Laughter turned to shouting as forgotten grudges came to light. Yet despite these moments of chaos, many believed that whiskey helped forge bonds stronger than iron. Shared stories over drinks often turned strangers into lifelong friends. In this lively haven of spirits and stories, the whiskey flowed freely, an essential ingredient in both building community and stirring trouble within this bustling boomtown. On a particularly lively night at the tavern, an unexpected figure stepped through the swinging doors, a stranger wrapped in a dark coat, his wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over his face. The room fell silent for a moment, curiosity rippling through the crowd like a sudden gust of wind. He moved with an air of confidence, yet there was something undeniably mysterious about him that caught everyone's attention. As he approached the bar, Clara raised an eyebrow while pouring a drink. She had seen many newcomers come and go, but this man seemed different. With piercing eyes that hinted at untold stories and a demeanor that suggested he had traveled far and faced challenges unknown, he stirred both intrigue and suspicion among the patrons. "Whiskey, please," he stated with a voice smooth as silk but steady like the ground beneath their feet. The townsfolk exchanged glances, whispering speculations about who this stranger might be. Some thought he might be a skilled miner hiding secrets of gold mines. Others suspected he was running from something or someone. As he sipped his whiskey, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter and chatter resumed, but now it carried an edge. The presence of this enigma added tension to the air. Old rivalries felt sharper, and friends glanced nervously at one another, considering how this newcomer might disrupt their fragile harmony. Before long, several townspeople approached him, eager to hear his story and find out what brought him to their little corner of the frontier. But every question met with vague answers only deepened their curiosity. Little did they know, the arrival of the stranger was about to set off a chain of events that would unravel hidden truths and challenge the very fabric of their community. The tension in the tavern grew thicker as the night wore on, especially among two groups of miners who had been rivals since the Boomtown's early days. On one side, the Ironbacks, a rowdy crew known for their rough-and-tumble ways and hard-earned gold, sat at a table with empty whiskey glasses piled high. On the other side were the Silverhammers, a more refined but equally competitive group that prided themselves on their clever tactics in the mines. As Clara poured another round of whiskey for the Ironbacks, lively banter turned to pointed jabs. One member of the Silverhammers, feeling bold after a few too many drinks, shouted across the room, "I guess you lot can't find gold without smashing your pickaxes into the ground like fools." Laughter erupted from the Ironbacks, who rose to their feet, indignation flaring in their eyes. "Better to smash than to peddle your half-baked ideas about mining." A burly Ironback shot back, slamming his glass down. Whispers of uncertainty rippled through the crowd as friends exchanged worried glances, knowing how quickly these exchanges could turn violent. With each drink, confidence surged among them, and soon heated arguments filled the space with angry words and accusations that escalated into shoving matches. Other patrons attempted to defuse the situation, but their efforts only fueled the fire. As the night continued into chaos, it became apparent that the alcohol had blurred their judgment, leading them to misunderstandings and rash decisions. When an old score was finally settled with fists rather than words, the tavern's vibrant spirit grew dangerously close to erupting into full-blown chaos, leaving everyone questioning whether their community could survive such bitterness and rivalry brought on by whiskey and pride. The night began with spirited celebration as the tavern filled with townsfolk eager to let loose, laughter echoing off the wooden walls. Clara, the barkeep, worked tirelessly, pouring whiskey into glasses that were raised high in joyous toasts. Music played lively notes from a corner where the fiddler plucked his strings, inviting couples to dance and friends to clap along. The atmosphere was electric, and for a moment, old grievances seemed forgotten. However, as the whiskey flowed freely, tempers simmered beneath the surface. The Ironbacks and Silverhammers were still glaring at each other from across the room when one careless remark stirred trouble anew. A loud cheer erupted from an Ironback, mocking their rivals' failed mining efforts. In seconds, words turned to shouts and fists clenched tightly around glasses. Suddenly, a fight broke out between two burly miners, shoving and grappling until they toppled a table filled with drinks. Glass shattered as patrons screamed in surprise. Chaos spread like wildfire through the tavern. As more joined in, the music stopped, replaced by cries and curses punctuating the air. Outside, the streets of the Boomtown mirrored the turmoil within the tavern. Onlookers gathered, drawn by the noise only to find themselves caught in the fray. Fights spilled out into the dimly lit street where shadows danced wildly as lanterns swung overhead. Dust kicked up beneath heavy boots as rival gang members clashed under the starry sky. What had started as jubilant revelry quickly twisted into a dangerous battleground where friendships were forgotten amidst rage and confusion. By midnight, it was no longer a celebration but rather a testament to how swiftly harmony could dissolve into chaos, leaving everyone wondering what dawn would bring after such a night of turmoil. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the Boomtown lay in disarray, a stark contrast to the vibrancy that had filled the tavern just hours before. Broken glass crunched underfoot as townsfolk wandered through the streets, their faces marked with exhaustion and regret. The remnants of the night's chaos were evident everywhere. Overturned tables and scattered debris painted a picture of destruction amid the fading echoes of angry shouts. Clara stood outside the tavern, her heart heavy as she surveyed the aftermath. She had poured countless glasses of whiskey but never intended for her beloved establishment to become a battleground. The laughter that had once reverberated within those walls felt like a distant memory now. As she cleaned up, memories replayed in her mind. Faces of friends turned adversaries, unity shattered by pride and alcohol. In the streets, weary miners began to gather. Their heads hung low as they assessed both physical injuries and emotional scars. The ironbacks and silver hammers exchanged wary glances, their previous camaraderie lost, replaced by suspicion and anger. "What have we done?" one of them muttered, staring at a shattered lantern that had once illuminated their laughter. As sunlight spilled across the dusty road, illuminating the chaos left in its wake, townspeople began to speak candidly. Regret coursed through their hearts as they recounted what had been lost. A sense of community frayed by reckless actions and spiteful words. While some sought to mend fences, others brooded over old grudges that now seemed so petty in the light of day. The dawn did not bring new beginnings. Instead, it revealed the immediate need for healing and reflection amid the ruins of last night's revelry, urging them all to consider what it truly meant to belong in this fragile community. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the remnants of the previous night's chaos, townsfolk began to gather in small circles, sharing their thoughts and feelings on what had transpired. Clara set up a few simple tables outside the tavern, hoping to recreate a sense of community amid the wreckage. It was time to talk, to confront the messy reality they all now faced. The miners, once divided by rivalry, now stood shoulder to shoulder, united by the shared experience of regret. "I never thought things would get so out of hand," one ironback admitted, his voice heavy with remorse. The Silverhammers nodded in agreement, their faces reflecting the dawn's light with a newfound understanding. "We let our pride take over," another miner added, looking around at the familiar faces now tinged with shame. Despite the wreckage, laughter cautiously bubbled up as stories from the night emerged. They recalled moments of bravery and absurdity, how friends had jumped in to defend one another or how a stray dog had darted through the chaos, dodging fists and flying debris. "Remember when old Joe tried to dance and ended up on his backside?" Someone chuckled, prompting a ripple of laughter that felt like a balm for their spirits. In this morning light, bonds formed through shared experiences grew stronger. They began to discuss ways to rebuild, not just physically but emotionally as well. Plans were hatched for a community gathering where they could foster unity and healing through shared labor and laughter. As they worked together to clean up the streets, an unspoken pact lingered among them. They would strive for a better tomorrow, one where rivalry could transform into respect and camaraderie rather than chaos. In that moment, hope flickered anew like the dawn breaking over their Boomtown, a promise that they would rise from the ashes of last night's turmoil with hearts more connected than before. As the day unfolded, the townsfolk busied themselves not only with cleaning up, but also with discussions that would reshape their community's future. Clara gathered everyone outside the tavern, her heart warmed by the spirit of cooperation that had emerged from the wreckage. "We've all seen what can happen when we let our tempers get the best of us," she began, addressing the group. "Let's not forget this morning's lesson." The miners nodded, each reflecting on their behavior from the night before and recognizing how much they had taken their bonds for granted. "We came here for fortunes," one ironback said. "But what good is gold if our friendships crumble?" This sentiment resonated among them as they shared their own moments of regret and acknowledged that moderation was key, not just in drinking but in how they interacted with one another. Plans for a grand community gathering took shape as ideas flowed freely. They envisioned a festival celebrating unity, where old rivalries would be set aside and newcomers would be embraced. They could share laughter, stories, and, importantly, lessons learned from their mistakes. With renewed determination, they agreed to create a code of conduct that would guide their interactions moving forward, one that emphasized respect and understanding over pride. Together, Clara reminded them, "We can build a boomtown where everyone thrives." As they worked side by side in the morning sun, there was a palpable sense of hope in the air. They were no longer just individuals seeking fortune. They were a community forged through shared experiences, ready to rise stronger together. With each passing hour, it became clear that true wealth lay not in gold but in the connections formed between them, connections that would ensure their boomtown flourished for years to come.